Well, some days I have to pinch myself when I get to interview talented and fascinating people, and today is one of those days because I am joined by none other than the John Oates, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and I have nothing but warm memories of hearing your music on the radio throughout my entire life, and here I get to interview you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So,
virtually, right?
Virtually, yes. I'll take it. But, I've got you programmed as a channel on my Pandora. I listen to your music all the time, and I marvel at how many hits you have had over the years. How does one have so much music to give? Where does it stem from?
It's I guess I was born with it. I was born with it, and I never really doubted what I would do. There was never really a question. I just kept doing it, and I like to joke, as long as people didn't start booing, I kept on going. And so far, so good.
Quite the opposite, as a matter of fact. Now, you've had a solo career now for many years. Let's start with today. What are you working on today?
Right this minute, I'm working on changing my snow tires out. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, real life does get in the way of music every once in a while.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm always creating something. Right now, I'm very excited about the series of digital singles that I'm releasing. Started in November last year, and almost every month putting out a new song. And it's a whole new way of releasing music, because the world has changed, as you well know. Everyone, as you said, you have probably Hall & Oates on your Pandora list or whatever, and your playlist, and that's what the world's about: playlists, singles, people streaming. And I wanted to really immerse myself in that world. This is the first time I've made music that I didn't have anything physical, no CDs, no vinyl, no tape or whatever. So it's a whole new way of thinking about things, and it's really exciting to. So I've surrounded myself with some really great, really sharp young people who really know what they're doing, and it's an education, and it's a lot of fun. That's really interesting. You bring up two very interesting points. So I listened, your song Disconnected is fantastic, and you speak to just the age of the pandemic and being on our own and separated from our fellow man. And then you also talk about the digital world in which we live. So you've seen the technology of music change over the years. Do you long for the past, or are you happily going into this uncharted territory? I'm not nostalgic. I don't long for the past. I realize the past is gone. It was fun while it lasted. I think Daryl and I both had the advantage of being in the sweet spot of the analog world before the world changed. We made records, we toured, radio was playing us, fell in love with our music, and the world fell in love with our music, and it was great. But now things are different, and I think I think one of the marks of someone who can sustain is someone who can adapt. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, I hate to use the analogy of the dinosaurs, but here I am.
But you bring, I'll call it a legacy. You bring with you just a tremendous musical legacy. What is your advice for musicians today who don't necessarily have, we still have radio and things like that. We have other marketing tools. So what is your advice to them to make sure that people hear their music, to make sure that they see the success maybe half as much as you did?
Yeah. Well, the digital virtual world that we're in now, when it comes to music and all sorts of creative things like film and everything, the good thing about it is that everyone gets a chance to express themselves, and everyone gets a chance to be heard. The bad thing about it is that everyone gets a chance to express themselves and be heard. The amount of music, especially, that I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it's crazy. It's 100,000 songs every day are released.
Wow.
And at least, maybe more. And so it's hard to cut through all that. So you have to really, I think what you have to do is you have to understand that maybe you won't have, huge mass appeal like a Taylor Swift or someone. I think artists like Taylor Swift will be very, very few and far between. But you can get an audience. You can find an audience who likes what you do. You can nurture that audience. You can play to them, and you can deliver music to them. And it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of belief in yourself. But that's the name of the game.
Absolutely.
You have to just keep. We have a philosophy with my music. It's called always on, which means that there's always something that I'm putting out, whether it's the actual record itself, the song itself, or whether it's an acoustic version or an alternative version. So you have to keep feeding the beast, so to speak.
Always producing.
Always producing.
Always producing. Well, we need to take a break, but when we come back, some fun facts about this Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. We'll be right back. We are back with multi-platinum recording artist John Oates. Something caught my eye while doing a deep dive in your history. A fun fact is that you nearly pursued journalism before music became your path. That would have been a travesty for mankind.
A travesty for mankind. Yeah, if I was what you're saying is if I had become a journalist, it would have been a travesty.
If you hadn't become a musician, you know exactly what I mean.
I know what you meant. Well, no, the thing was, I wanted to be, playing music. I wanted to be involved in the professional music scene in Philadelphia as a kid when I first moved to the city, and journalism was the path of least resistance. I've always enjoyed writing, whether it be songs or prose or whatever it might be, and it always has come easy for me. So I thought, well, if I take a course that's easy for me, I'll have plenty of time for music, and that's really where I was coming from.
I see. Now you also have another passion, and that is cars. So which cars in particular?
I am a fan of the lightweight vintage sports car.
Is that right?
And it takes a lot of forms, especially the Porsches. I have a really good relationship that goes back to the 1970s with Porsche. My first sports car that I ever bought was a Porsche, and ever since then I've been hooked, and made a lot of friends along the way, and I've been involved with racing and things like that. So it's fun to be on a back road, especially in Tennessee where I'm living now, and just zone out, and just cruise through the countryside, and it's like therapy for me. I love it.
Now let's talk about your new single, Why Can't We Live Together? Tell us about this single.
Well, it's a cover version. It's a song that I did not write. It was written by Timmy Thomas in 1971, and he wrote it about the Vietnam War. It's an anti-war song. It's a protest song in general. And I just thought the time was right for another version of it. It's always been one of my favorite songs. His version was very lean and very stark. I wanted to put my own spin on it, but keep the integrity of his message. So the lyrics, of course, are exactly as he wrote them, but the music is quite different. And I wanted to just make it my own a little bit. So I put a lot of doo-wop harmonies and a little bit more instrumentation.
Wonderful.
But it's an amazing record and especially it's so timely with, what's going on in the Ukraine, what was going on in the presidential elections last, a few years ago. So it's really, it's just, I think it's a comment that I think a lot of people will relate to.
Now everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
And you put on a hell of a show. I got to see you in concert here in North Charleston in 2017. When are you coming back to Charleston?
As soon as I get invited.
You always have an open invitation as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So, and I'd be remiss to ask about another tour with as Hall & Oates.
I don't know. Daryl and I are both doing individual projects right now. Daryl's touring. I'm touring. I'm doing a series of acoustic shows. I'm calling it an evening of songs and stories. And it's a chance for me to play really cool, intimate venues where I get a chance to tell the stories behind the songs. And it's a really intimate connection with an audience on a smaller scale.
Oh, I love it.
And I love it. So it's a lot of fun right now.
Wonderful. John Oates, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you.
Love your music.
All right, thanks.
We're back.
Thank you very much.
After this.
Bye.